for joining. I'm just going to self-describe to introduce myself. I'm Andrew Campbell-Edie. I'm the Communications Manager with the Irish Centre for Diversity. My self-description is I'm a Black man in my 50s. My pronouns are he, him. I have shaved hair on my head and a black moustache. I'm wearing glasses with a brown frame, and I'm wearing a black jumper. I'm seated in front of a white backdrop with Irish Centre Diversity logo over one of my shoulders. Okay, so we recently held the NDIA. We recently held the National Diversity Inclusion Awards to recognise and celebrate the valuable work being done to progress diversity inclusion in Ireland. This webinar series has been devised to share insights and experience so that any learnings can be applied to your organisation or to help with entering the next award cycle. Today's session focuses on the category Advancing Race / Ethnicity Equality. I'll shortly hand over to the award sponsor, and then we'll hear from some of the finalists, and then with the award winner wrapping up in about an hour. We're joined by Catherine White, our ISL interpreter, who's in one of the boxes around me. The session's being recorded and will be available on the Irish Centre for Diversity website shortly. Give us a few days. Everyone is muted except the panel. And please share any comments in the chat function. On that also, we've got a lot to hear from and pack in this hour. So we don't have time for a question and answer session, but please do post any questions into the chat function and we'll endeavour to get to them and share them once the recording's available and once everyone's had a chance to cover them off. Now, without further ado, I'm very pleased to introduce our host for today's session, Heather Lowry, Head of Talent, Diversity and Organisation Development, who will shine a light on POS's EDI advances and lead what is sure to be an enlightening conversation. Before we start, though, it's important to mention that POS, like the other sponsors and the Irish Centre for Diversity team, had no part in the judging process and couldn't enter themselves. Over to you, Heather.
Thanks a million, Andrew. I'm delighted to be here. So I am Heather Lowry. I am a white female with long brown hair, and I am wearing brown glasses. I also got the memo from Andrew, and I am wearing a black jumper as well. So it's great to be here. Really, I suppose for us in sponsoring this award, it was very much about the opportunity to learn from a lot of the finalists. For us, we are focusing on a lot in terms of ethnicity, whether it be our recruitment and selection policy changes, whether it be, training for inclusive recruitment or interviewers. But An Post is a traditional organisation, and really we have employees that are in their roles for over 30 years. So we don't have a huge amount of churn. So sometimes it can be difficult to really bring in that diversity. So we really want to learn, some ideas or learn from the panelists today. In terms of overall D&I with An Post, we're probably most known for, our work around gender equality and really our gender pay gap, a zero gender pay gap. But for us, we look at the full spectrum, and particularly last year, we were very involved continuing our work in gender equality, launching our menopause toolkit. Also, we would have worked with disability inclusion. We've been doing that really for the last 2 years, really supporting line managers to support employees around reasonable accommodations. And then finally, I suppose, a big thing for us is we launched the Respect campaign last year. I'm saying their respect as if you know it, but it is the big R, we call it. And it's a respect campaign that we've launched across An Post. And it's very much around, highlighting what, respect is in An Post. And what we don't tolerate in An Post. And that's really trying to build an inclusive workplace for everyone. And also there's an education piece around, maybe things in the past it was okay to say, maybe we need to really learn now in terms of, the language we use in our day-to-day. So it's a big campaign. We launched it last year and we continue working on it this year as well. So enough about OnPost, because it's not about OnPost today, it's about everybody else who is joining us. And before we start, I just wanted to say we're sorry to say that TikTok was also a finalist in this award category, but unfortunately they're unable to join us today. And the judges really enjoyed their nomination, and we're delighted that they entered this year. So let's get started to hear all these learnings from each of the finalists. So our first finalist on the webinar today is Medtronic. We're joined by McDara Howley. And Medtronic were highly commended in this category, and the team, as I said, are represented by McDara today. Medtronic was praised really for their strategy that has been shared globally, and for their reverse mentoring model, where more senior leaders were mentored by, I suppose, diverse new hires into the organization. So let's kick off things, if that's okay with you, McDara. Can you tell us a little bit about the reverse mentoring program, what it's about, and what we can learn from it?
Sure, no problem, Heather. Just to point out, very similar to Andrew, only white. I have the same shaved hair, very similar glasses, but wearing a white shirt. Identify as a he, him. Thank you for having me on, and the team were absolutely thrilled and delighted to get such a meritorious mention on the awards. The reverse mentoring program was actually a dual mentoring program, where we identified that the Black ethnicity was, or African descent network as we call it, was probably our lowest and weakest point of diversity in Medtronic in Ireland. And just for context, we have about 5,000 people working in Ireland, and then we also partner with our peers over in the UK. So as we looked at that and looked at why the representation was so small, but also why that representation was not advancing within the organization. So there's obviously a ton of unconscious bias, but there was also other barriers in the way. So the team brought me this initiative, which at first I said, no, this does not make sense. This was taking operators at the lowest level of the company, and the ask was to pair them with the most senior people in Ireland for Medtronic, who in fact were some of the most senior people in Medtronic globally. What it was to develop a career path guidance for the mentees, but more importantly, that cultural exchange between the mentee and the mentor, bringing to light and just shining a light on the lack of advancements for some of our most educated, long tenured employees. We had one example where a lady had three degrees and 2 masters, and was still not progressing through the organization. We had multiple others with masters, others with dual masters. So we paired those individuals up with our most senior people, our vice presidents, our senior directors, and our directors, all based on where they wanted their career to go, where they were finding barriers to move forward. But the one thing we specified and really pushed on the mentees was that need for the cultural exchange, for being open, honest, and transparent with those senior leaders about the barriers in their life. And I have to say, the senior leaders at the end of the program were moved almost to tears as they recalled the conversations that they had through the year. This started off with us saying it's a half-hour one-on-one mentoring session. That moved to the mentors actually going to the workplace and doing what we call Gemba, but literally walking the manufacturing factory lines with the mentees to understand their day-to-day work, and then coming back back into the facility and sitting down and learning about the lives and challenges and the hardships that have faced the Black community in Medtronic, and indeed learning about those challenges that they faced in Ireland. When I took on the role originally, I thought, I'm a middle-aged white guy in Galway. There's very little racism in Galway and Ireland in comparison to what my peers tell me about in the US, particularly after what happened with George Floyd. What we learned as leaders was phenomenal. The quote that struck me as we learned was, one of the individuals said, I'm lucky. I count myself lucky. I've never been attacked on my way home. It's like, that doesn't sound like luck to me. It doesn't sound like something you should ever consider. So that actually changed the leadership mindset in the organization, and it focused the leaders on looking at the metrics closer. It focused the senior leaders on looking at the education that some of our talent has put themselves through in their personal journey for advancement. And it's focused on how come we're not seeing that advancement happen? How come manager, and even we're now have a senior manager, is the highest level a Black person has within in Medtronic UK and Ireland at the moment? How can we address that? How can we move it forward? So we signed up over 20 senior leaders in the organization, and I did have to go external to Ireland and the UK to find some data analytics senior leaders, etc., based on the where our mentees wanted to go. So 10 of those people have now either been promoted or laterally moved into the areas of progression and have found additional opportunities to move forward. And on the back end of it, after a year of being mentored by all these senior leaders, those leaders are now sitting on our ADN committee, leading the second cohort. What we've done is we've now assigned them mentors in the manager level, mentors in their areas, to ensure that that progression continues, that coaching continues. So we've been highly successful, and our second cohort is going through it. As Heather says, this is now a global initiative, which we've taken over into our global ADN, which is now one of the largest ERGs in Medtronic. Medtronic being a 90,000 person organization, it has changed the culture. It has changed how we're doing things, and we've actually globally, from our guide global committee, is now leaning in to use this model going forward. I've recently moved into to head of finance for manufacturing, where I have all 70 manufacturing sites fiscally reporting into me. And we're now going to roll this program out for all our direct labor operators, focusing across all our multiple ERGs for our kind of underrepresented members of our teams.
Fantastic. Just really great to hear. And I suppose it interests me in particular because we tried to do something similar, McDara, in Ampus, but a lot of people said we didn't really want to be highlighted or called out, or was that something that, you got initial resistance in the beginning around it? Absolutely.
We got no resistance from senior leadership, partly because I can be a bit of a bully, but partly because the team really did want to lean in, and the metrics were telling them that they weren't doing a good job. But from the people on the floor trying to come in and sit down with these people with big titles and big roles, we actually spent a long time with our learning and development team working on how do you sit in a room, and then how do we demystify that these are actual people. They're not vice presidents, they're not directors, senior directors, they're people. They're people who want to help. They're people who want to learn. And then we spent time with the mentors to really make sure they understood that and got them to remember what it felt like when they were first presenting to senior leadership as junior talent in the organization. And that did help. I will say I fired a number of mentors who just checked the box to turn up rather than leaning in. And we pushed a couple of mentees who weren't doing the reverse mentoring piece. So on top of them meeting their mentors, they met myself and our executive champion as well. And we pushed on and made sure that they were getting that support and that they felt comfortable enough to speak. And where they didn't, I changed the mentor.
Super, fantastic. Thank you so much. That is really, really lots in there, certainly for me. And in terms of, as you said, lots of impact, lots of success from it. 10 people already moving up, and you're on to your second one. So brilliant. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. We're going to move on to our second finalist, because I am conscious we've a lot to get through. So our second finalist is the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, and we are delighted to have Shauna Lawless with us today. The judges felt that the college showed real leadership in supporting staff and students from different ethnicities, especially during the riots in Dublin in November, which really brought, I suppose, allyship to the fore. So Shauna, can you tell us a little bit about, I suppose, the importance of allyship and that bystander training in your strategy? Love to hear more.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here today. So I work in the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Unit in RCSI. I use she, her pronouns, and I have long-ish brown hair and a purple shirt. So Yeah, I suppose in response to, in particular, the Black Lives Matter movement, in 2021, we realized we really had a duty to support our international students and staff. We're the largest medical university in Ireland, and we have probably the most diverse student population with students from 98 countries. And then about 10% of our staff population is non-Irish and represents about 50 countries. So we couldn't, we'd be doing a disservice to our staff and students if we didn't look into advancing race and ethnicity equality. So I suppose in response to the Black Lives Matter movement, the EDI unit kind of wondered what could be done. And so we convened a staff and student race equality forum, which is co-chaired by a staff member and the head of EDI, and also a member of our senior management team. So buy-in from senior leadership has been a key component of the success of the Race Equality Forum throughout its since its inception. And we've had our president and our vice chancellor become really involved, and we were the first university to create a race equality action plan with their support. This had staff and student input, and we had consultation from external organisations such as Pavy Point, Traveller and Roma Centre. The objectives of the action plan are in alignment with the Higher Education Authority's recommendations for race equality in higher education. And we were the first university to create such an action plan. The work of the Race Equality Forum, so we meet 3 times a year, and members are assigned different actions to try and complete to try and advance race equality within the university. We want to really, as we have such a diverse population, and also, of course, we are training medical professionals who will, they could go anywhere in the world with their qualification, or also, the diverse nature of a hospital ward. We want to prepare them for interacting with people from, all walks of life. And we also think it's important that we are endorsing role modeling and representation. And so we really try to champion role modeling, and our co-chair of the Race Equality Forum is Professor Ghazia Faya, who is an absolute, she's a trailblazer in her field. And so I suppose having role models is really important to us. In terms of our bystander intervention programs, so we have recently just launched a 2-hour training in bystander intervention for staff and students. The training examines different scenarios and aims to, I suppose, empower everybody in how to be an active bystander. As well as this, we have ensured that we are looking at our curriculum and ensuring that the case studies that the students are undertaking are, I suppose we're decolonizing the language. We're ensuring that the students are working alongside their lecturers to review and audit the curriculum and the case studies. And they have an anti-racism reading group as well, in which they try to pinpoint where there might be cases of racism within the curriculum. And we've also recently purchased mannequins with different skin tones, and we also have different visual libraries, visual resources in which they can use to examine, say for example, bruising or different dermatological conditions on different skin tones as well.
Fantastic. And you said about that whole piece around allyship, and again, in really, I suppose, driving it. You know, is there any one thing or one tip you'd give to everybody on the call around driving that allyship that we can take away?
I suppose for us, we found that, you know, it's all very well and good if, you know, the handful of us in the EDI office are trying to promote that sense of allyship, but really we need the buy-in from those in senior positions. So by having the full support of our president, vice chancellor, and all of the senior leadership team, you know, and they're helping to drive it, and they're helping to kind of lead by example. I suppose that in turn kind of drips down to every one of us in the university.
And the way you spoke about your co-chair there in terms of a trailblazer and leading the way, you know, forward, you know, you can't but feel the enthusiasm and want to be part of this. And as you said, it's not just one leader, it's all the leaders kind of rowing together, which is fantastic. Exactly. That's fantastic, Shauna. Really, really interesting. And again, just some, really, really key takeaways for me in terms of, you know, what they're doing in terms of their day-to-day and their practical in terms of the mannequins, etc. So great. So I'm going to move on now to our next finalist, and it is SSE Thermal. And I'm delighted to have Terry Brown join us this morning. This entry in particular impressed the judges with the fact that they took a strategic decision to make the graduate pipeline more diverse and remove barriers maybe to allow graduates from different backgrounds to feel very welcome at SSE. And this is certainly something, you know, it's close to my heart. So I'm really interested to hearing a little bit more from you, Terry, and some insights around, you know, what were the barriers and how did you remove them?
Thank you, Heather. Can you hear me okay? Yes.
Can indeed, absolutely.
Fabulous. Just double checking, had some issues earlier, but yeah, thank you for having me here today. I'm really happy to join the conversation and share some of, you know, our learnings and some things that we've introduced at SSE Thermal. So yes, my name is Terry. I'm the Early Careers Manager for the SSE Thermal Division, which is one of the 7 autonomous businesses that sits under the SSE Group. And I look after all of our learner programmes, from graduates to apprentices, to the young interns that come into our employability programmes as well. We have a very passionate I&D team that sits within the SSE Group, which is headed by Rosie McRae. And everything that they do essentially is in collaboration with the 7 individual business units through working parties that both myself and Eileen, who's on the call today, sits on. And these groups are really empowered to look at the individual business, you know, I&D strategies, what are our needs, and it allows us to then introduce some initiatives that are kind of bespoke to our individual units. I would say that the consensus across the group absolutely is that I&D is an important element of reaching SSE's goal to champion a fair and just energy transition. So it's really important to us. We know that we need a diverse workforce and we need to be inclusive to provide fair work. The diversity of thought that's going to be needed as we, you know, come across these challenges from a mix of people is how really we will create the innovation and creativity that's needed to solve the net zero acceleration plan. So it's very, very important to us. A couple of years ago, we had a look at our pipeline programmes from across the group, and it was grown massively. We went from numbers around sort of 10, 12 people coming on board through our graduate pipeline to last year onboarding over 200 people. So we knew that we needed to get that diversity of thought through that particular pipeline. And it was a great way to introduce more diversity to the organisation. And probably more importantly, those learners essentially will roll off and become senior engineers within the business and senior leaders themselves. So we had a look at how we were, recruiting, and we noticed that there absolutely was some barriers to be able to achieve that diversity through that pipeline. So one of the first things that we had a look at was removing barriers by reducing our entry requirements onto programme. Historically, we were looking for candidates to come on programme that had a 2-1 degree, and with lots of applications from people that had went on to do masters and things as well. And at the time, there probably was a bit of a culture from line managers that they would look at these applications coming through and look at the video interviews coming through and automatically just go to the the people with the highest academic achievements coming through that interview process without looking at the candidate as a whole. So one of the things that we did was change that. So we reduced the entry requirements to a 2-2 degree, and we took out the fact that the candidates had to have any masters. It's not a prerequisite for the programme, it's not a prerequisite for the substantive posts. So we removed those barriers, and there's a couple of reasons for us doing that. Even from personal experience, I had, when I was at university, I had caring requirements at home. I had family that I had to look after. I was working 3 different jobs. There was lots and lots of things going out with my academic studies that didn't necessarily mean that I could apply myself 100%. And that doesn't mean to say that you'd be any less of a successful candidate coming through a graduate programme. So that was one of the things that we did. Now, when we did that, we knew we had to coordinate some in-house training and awareness, because even though we are reducing those academic requirements and essentially opening up our programme to more diverse candidates, it also meant that we had to set the scene for the people that were doing some of the recruitment initiatives in-house as well. So as mentioned previously, our SSE I&D group worked really, really closely with our learning and talent team, and they put together some inclusive mindset training, which was absolutely fantastic. It gave us some really great I&D toolkits to train and raise that awareness with line managers about, unconscious bias and things like that. There was really 3 key pillars to that training. So we focused on growth mindset, we focused on neurodiversity of I&D, and we focused on psychological safety as well. And what we noticed was, as we were rolling that training out to our hiring managers and ultimately our graduate line managers, as we noticed there was a real shift in mindset in terms of when they were looking at candidates and who they were looking to progress through that process. One of the other things that we did as well is we cast our net wider. So again, historically, SSE was through their recruitment team only targeting Russell Group universities, and we've really cast that net much wider now. So we're working with more universities up and down the UK, as opposed to the universities where we had that tried and tested historical relationship with. So we're now seeing much more candidates apply to our programmes from across the group, from various different universities up and down the UK. Again, one of the other things that we decided to do, and this was a group decision, it was a brilliant decision as far as I was concerned, was that we removed the need for people to pay their visa fees for international candidates requiring sponsorship. That was a huge decision, probably a lot of cost to the business. However, it does now mean that for our 2024 cohort coming in, a third of the overall programme for SSE, which is over 200 people joining that programme, are international candidates. And certainly within SSE Thermal, the business unit that I work within, we've got about a 53% statistic of international candidates about to join our programme, which is fabulous. And then there's a couple of other things that we're looking to do that we've just signed up to recently, and we're going to be working a little bit more on, which is for social mobility as well. So we've just entered into a relationship with the 93% Club. So that's to improve our social mobility statistics. We're hoping to work with state school students within these 93% clubs and really encourage applicants from people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. So these may be students who were the first in their family to attend university, maybe had free school meals when they were younger, clothing grants, parents on benefits, that sort of thing. And we're tracking those stats as they're coming through. We're also working with the Sutton Trust as well. So we are showcasing energy careers with school students and people going on into university careers to showcase the type of work that we do within the energy industry and putting on work experience days. And we're also just currently in the process of signing up to the Social Mobility Commission pledge as well. And that will allow us to benchmark where we're at and get the guidance and support we need to improve these statistics of our candidates coming on programme. So yes, so some big changes for us. Some of it, has been really, really well received. Again, like I said last year, with this 53% international candidates coming on programme, we also had a 50-50 gender split as well, which for an engineering programme, I'm really proud of.
Absolutely.
We were very lucky to have maybe one or two females applying in the past. So yeah, big changes for us, and really proud of the work that we've done.
Fantastic! Wow, I'm here scribbling notes as quickly as I can, Terry, to get all the learnings. But it's brilliant that it started off looking at a one group and it got bigger and bigger, and now it's holistic, and now you're looking at state schools. You're looking at getting in there kind of early, which is amazing. So thank you so much. Really, really lots to take away from that, and thanks for joining us this morning. So I'll move on to our next finalist. So I'm pleased to welcome John Shaw, who's joining us from Carillon Global Solutions. The judges were impressed with the organisation's race ERG, and that supported employees of different ethnicities, and the support that ERG actually had from senior leaders, kind of similar to Shauna in that getting that support. So John, we'd love to hear from you, and if you could tell us a little bit more about that senior leadership. What does the support look like? So we always say, or I always say, it's great to have that, support, but you don't want it to be passive. You want it to be active and really committed. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, hi everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to talk today. So at Carillon, we build great software and AI solutions for better healthcare. We opened in Ireland in November 2021. And we now employ over 250. We have 100. We're halfway through filling our latest batch of 100 vacancies. Right from the start, we took the principle of diversity very seriously, and I think it's fair to say we've demonstrated the power of diversity to get things done. In our company, most of us are convinced that we're highly successful because we look like modern Ireland. We are modern Ireland. We set out to be modern Ireland. At the senior level, there are, including myself, there are 21 people in the senior technology leadership in our company. So if we look at the split, excluding, I'm from Dundalk. So if we talk about the 20 who report into me, in technology management, 10 are born Irish and 10 are new Irish. So we don't use the term immigrant, we don't use the term alien, and we certainly don't use the term non-national. We refer to our wonderful colleagues as new Irish. So there's 50-50 of the 20, 10, but also 11 male and 9 female. That's a 55 to 45% split. Our goal is 50-50. So what we set out to do from the start was to build an organization where people can recognize themselves in a leadership role rather than down the ranks. So overall, we are 58% new Irish, 42% born Irish. Overall, we're 45% female, 55% male. But we know what we have to do to close that gap. But we set out from the start with the ambition, you know, for fairness, which is what underlies diversity, equity, and inclusion. All of us on this planet are acutely aware of fairness and unfairness. So it's at the heart of all of that. So I guess, yeah, by role modeling it from the leadership, we show all of our people that, yeah, we're serious about this. We also look at our diversity in metrics in relation to pay as well. So we know we don't have a problem in terms of salary differential based on nationality or gender. We know we're fair on that. And one of the earlier speakers talked about paying for visa fees. We do the same. So right from the start, we didn't want any barrier to entry for anyone. We focus on the content of a candidate's character, not on their ethnic heritage. Their ethnic heritage is very important, but we primarily focus on the content of their character when we hire and reward and elevate people in their career. Although we're a new company, over 60 of our team were promoted last year in 2023. So we move fast when we see good character, you know. Yeah, that gives you, I guess, an overview of us.
Absolutely, John. And you know what, I think it's fantastic that you're a new company, and from the get-go, this was a #1 priority. It wasn't like, okay, we've started and now all of a sudden, you know, like everybody else, oh, diversity and, you know, inclusion and ethnicity is really important. But again, it's from the beginning. So you really pushed it, and it seems to be now embedded in everything you're doing. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, absolutely. I think it's very hard to build in culture later. Yeah. So we had some very strong business imperatives from the start. Like we had one technology project initially, we now have 16. But rather than narrowly focus on the important business of getting results, we knew that if we didn't do the hard work of building our culture from day one, it would be very difficult to retrofit that in. So yeah, we took it seriously. So last year in 2023, our voluntary attrition was less than 1%. You know, so we talk about offering a career, not a job. You know, we're also there's only one kind of person we're very tough on in our company. Bullies. Bullies don't last in our company. We use the probation process wisely. You know. So when someone is a culture fit and you know gets things done in our company, they're promised a great career.
Fantastic, and very aligned to Puss there, John, in terms of that respect campaign and, you know, behaviour that we don't tolerate and stamping it out from the beginning. So super, thank you so much, John. This is brilliant. So finally, I'm waiting to introduce Melissa. I'm sure she's waiting there. Melissa is our winner of the category, and I'm really pleased to welcome her. The judges really, you know, have told us that they loved the refugee access program that was developed in collaboration with various different partners, for example, and about fostering and supporting that real career opportunities, very much echoing what John has just said in terms of offering a career, not just a job. And while everybody is definitely a winner here and you know are doing amazing work, we're delighted to have Melissa talk to us a little bit more about, you know, this amazing program. So it's such an impressive initiative. If you were to pick one thing, which I know it's a hard question, Melissa, but if there was one aspect that you are most proud of this impressive initiative, what would it actually be?
Oh, that's a challenging question because there is so much to this initiative. But just by way of introduction, and I will get to. My name's Melissa Bosch. I'm head of diversity, equity, and inclusion for EY Ireland. My pronouns are her, she. I'm of mixed race heritage. I'm wearing black shirt with some pink and green and white detail on it. And I have long dark hair. I hail from Wicklow, but I'm originally from South Africa, and I've lived in Ireland for 13 years now. And that is because a very convincing Irishman asked me to marry him. So now I call Ireland home, and I identify as Afro-Irish. I'm truly passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it really stems from my ethos that's seated in the African philosophy of Ubuntu. And Ubuntu talks about that universal bond, of sharing that connects all humanity. I am because you are. And that is my why. That is my purpose as an individual. And so to come back to your question, that is probably the thing that heartens me the most about this program. It is about establishing social connection and seeing the value in others, mobilizing staff members across our organization to contribute to the Refugee Access Program, but to also take and learn from it so that we see the value in that diversity. We see the value in people that are marginalized, are on the edges, on the fringes of our society. So that for me is probably the thing that I take away and I go, wow, I get to do this job. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome to use the power of a large organization to do that, but to know that the blueprint for this can be replicated across various organizations. I hope I answered your question there.
Absolutely, Melissa. And tell me a little bit more about what you mentioned, your staff across the board can get involved. What are some of the things that they can do to be involved in the refugee program?
Absolutely. So obviously the Refugee Access Program is it's a 12-week immersive program, and it looks at how we can upskill and support refugees and asylum seekers into meaningful work in the Irish context. It's really about breaking down those barriers to opportunity for employment and for them to help them sustain meaningful work in EY or in the marketplace. And so we surround them with a circle of support. Over the 12 weeks, they have a counselor that helps them to guide them through the organization, helps guide them through their development. They have a buddy that helps them navigate day-to-day queries, but also the culture of the organization, the culture of working within EY, and to helping integrate them socially as well. Remember, we tend to, when we come from the dominant group, we tend to believe that everyone is having the same experience as us. But really, it's about helping people build that social capital, helping them build those networks. We know how networks work in Ireland, and that's how we tend to get things done. That's how we tend to get access to opportunities. They also have a thought leadership mentor. So during the course of the 12 weeks, they produce a thought leadership document based on a real world challenge. And this thought leadership mentor would be there just to help guide them through that process. All in all, there's over 100 volunteers that support the program over that 12 weeks, which is pretty incredible. And that comes from people facilitating workshops, and we'd have over 50 workshops over the course of 12 weeks, to the circle of support, to mobilizing people within our talent service line, and also throughout the business. AWS is our support services. They get involved because we provide. We break down barriers by providing laptops, by providing dongles, going down to those small barriers that can stop people from actually truly experiencing work. And I do want to share a quote from one of them because it will bring it to life. RAP, it gave me the platform to the corporate world in Ireland. It served as a cornerstone for career change and a chance to explore my potential and skill set. The opportunity to network with people from different levels within the organization restored my confidence level, the confidence level that I had lost. My counselor helped me deal with the imposter syndrome and helped me realize that I had it in me. The thought leadership exercise gave me the opportunity to research and learn about the impact of climate change and its disastrous effects on every part of the world. Above all, the opportunity to work for one of the big fours is unbelievable. This is Scar, and Scar works in tech consulting. She's still with us, and she's working from tech consulting in Donegal.
Amazing,
And,
Melissa.
like, these are the stories that really talk to the impact of a program like this.
And Melissa, you mentioned there that you know, that the students can stay with you after the program. Do you find that other students are now equipped and ready, you know, that they're out, they're ready to leave and off, so it's either they may stay, or there's opportunities to stay in EY or opportunities to move, but it's having that corporate mindset and bringing them maybe up a level from where they were before?
Absolutely. Success of this program isn't about just creating a pipeline for EY. It's about helping people back into the world of work, understanding the obstacles that they face, and really bringing equity into action, making sure that equity is a word, as a verb, not just a word that we use. So yes, absolutely, it's increased the diversity of our pipeline. We're not just seeing entry level coming through. What we're seeing is real quality candidates coming through. Candidates that want to stay in EY, and candidates that want to do other things. So they may want to go back and study. They may want to look to the marketplace and go, all right, I want to see if there's any other opportunities for me. Or they may say, look, I just need to take a break. I need to recalibrate. I now have the understanding of what I need to do when that time comes. So success isn't as black and white as getting someone through into EY. Yes, we've had massive success. There's 70% of people have come into our business, but it is about enhancing cultural intelligence within the organization. It's about social inclusion and tackling a current societal issue. It's about facilitating learning and development, and disrupting and redefining and challenging stereotypes. When we think about the archetype of a refugee and or asylum seeker, we put them in a box. Automatically, we put them in a box. And that means they can't contribute in the same way on a level playing field to everyone else. So it's about disrupting all those barriers and providing access to meaningful and sustainable work. I'll give you one last quote, and this is someone that's actually working in outside of EY. My RAP experience at EY has been a great journey overall, with lots of learning and meeting people from different departments, sharing their experiences, and motivating me to keep going, learning how to draft thought leadership projects and working as a team. I would say it's been quite a journey for growth and continuous growth. This is Wedson, and he is a mortgage customer delivery advisor at Bank of Ireland.
Wow.
Awesome.
Amazing, Melissa. And can I ask you, you know, like obviously EY is such a big organization, you know, how can a smaller organization, I suppose, take this blueprint and apply it? So somewhere smaller, you know, that might be on the call today. Have you any tips for that?
I would say start small. We started small. So in 2021, we had just over 20 applications, and that's grown since to 115 applications. You don't need to start with 20 applications. Work with a third party. Work with the Open Doors Initiative. Leverage their skills, leverage their pipeline to help support you. You don't need to do it at scale. I'm privileged. I get to do it at scale. But all these little things aggregate into a huge impact within society. So I would say start small, build that community, build your cultural intelligence. Really important. That cultural competence is important. Sometimes we think we know it all. We don't. So keep that open mind and really think about the barriers that people face. to accessing meaningful work. Another thing I'll put in there is, do not treat it as charity. And I'm doing a pregnant pause for a reason. Do not treat it as charity. This is access to talent that is overlooked. And all we're doing is unlocking that potential. Okay,
Absolutely.
so yeah, so that would be say, start small, work with a partner like Open Doors Initiative, and learn from the process and iterate. We iterate all the time. This is not something that is we just plug and play each year. We iterate and we bring it as close as possible to BAU practice within EY, so that it is seen as a natural pipeline of talent.
Fantastic. No, and for me, the words that are in my head is that meaningful work. You know, it has to be beneficial on both sides. It's meaningful, it's purposeful, and people feel valued, you know, in any role. So look, just absolutely amazing, Melissa, in terms of you know, the depth that you've gone. But as you said, start small, all very achievable, you know, which is great to hear, I'm sure, for other organizations. And I just want to say, you know, I feel quite humbled actually being on the call today to hear all the amazing things that everybody is doing. I'm sure everybody even who's joining us as part of the audience, and it's just fantastic to hear that we all want to do really great things, and we're all making an impact and changing, and it's just amazing to hear. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this morning. I'm going to hand it over to Andrew, maybe just to do a little wrap up for us. But Andrew, I have nailed the timing, I have to say, this morning, so I hope you're happy with me.
Well done. It's a difficult thing to do, so well done, and you aced it. Just as a quick wrap up then, to keep us on time, just going on from what Melissa was saying, or one of the points Melissa made about speaking to people outside your organization and getting help from experts in the field. The phrase came to me, you don't know what you don't know. So speaking to other people and sharing and pulling on their expertise, and not just experts, speaking to people in your talent pool, speaking to people in your client base, speaking to business partners about the steps you can take to improve any aspect of D&I. I suppose specifically race and ethnicity we're talking about today, but it equally applies to all of the other areas as well. Speak to the people around you and share, I can't say the word, perspectives, share experiences, share learnings. And as Melissa said, start small. A few of the key points I want to really focus on in my amazing notes that I've been taking is that it was great to see things like having clear policies set from the outset. So Heather mentioned that at the beginning, and then our various other finalists all kind of highlighted the value of inclusive leadership, and using that to drive cultural change, because without that buy-in, it's very difficult to advance things. So well done to SSE, to Medtronic, and to Carelon and to RCSI for driving those sorts of things. You all spoke about how tied in and how invested leadership are in those advances. So yeah, I mean, it was great to hear that coming out, and again, involving all levels of the team and the organization in this work is a really valuable thing to do. I'm conscious of time as well, so I'm going to switch over from my takeaways into my thank yous. First of all, I'd like to thank Heather and OnPost for sponsoring the award, and also thank you to our finalists, our winner, our highly commended. Thank you to Catherine, our ISL interpreter for today. Thank you for the tech team behind all of this, making it all happen, doing their magic. And thank you to you for joining us, and thank you for the chats and the comments that you've been sharing in the function on the side. If there are any questions in that, we will go through and make sure that we get to them and get answers to you. The recording will be available shortly, in a few days, and it will be available on the Irish Centre for Diversity website under the events tab. You can also go to our website to contact us if there's anything that you wanted to raise with us. And also you can register for the upcoming webinars and the other webinars in the series. And you can also look back on other recordings on previous years or other recordings that will come through in the series. So without further ado, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks very much.